presenter is Jonathan Pullman. Jonathan holds a dual degree in politics and sociology from Brandeis University and has interned with Brandeis' Heller School for Public Social Policy and Management, where he learns social network analysis tools. Jonathan is interested in the intersection of international relations, sociology, and public health, and has worked with the William Clinton Foundation, McKinsey & Company, and most recently with Distressed Children's and Infants International, who sponsored his research in Bangladesh. So welcome.
Alright, this is what I'm going to be touching on very briefly today. Nonprofit spending, my results from Bangladesh, and the areas of use of social network analysis, at least what I see. This is from GuideStar. GuideStar considers nonprofits efficient if they spend more than 80% of their budget on programs. But program spending is kind of a dubious term because programs is basically a blanket statement for anything that's non-administrative. And I think social network analysis has a place to help nonprofits become more efficient. And I'm going to show some of the results from that. This is Bangladesh. This is the village that we were in Bangladesh trying to do a social network analysis survey. And this is the survey. I hope it strikes you that it's very, very simple. It's two questions. You can get really detailed if you want, but the basic questions are for help, it's who do you go to for help or advice, who comes to you, and then you can make a social network map, which I'm going to show you on the next slide. And it's just cheap. It's pen and paper. It can be local. It can be implemented by the local community. I don't need to be there. No one from the West, no one from outside needs to be on the ground doing any of this. It really takes, there's directions which can be very simple, and it's literally a list with one question. And the analysis can be done remotely. And this is a social network map. This is the results of only one question. And you can quickly see who the central person is in this community, who everyone's going to for help or advice. And so it doesn't need to be a long-term study. You pick a geographic area, you implement the survey, and then once the results come, this wasn't the entire village. This was a subsection of the village, but once we saw a trend, we can move on to the next geographic area. We don't need to spend time surveying every single person in the community. And we saw this trend. We said, all right, this is good enough, and then we moved on to the next area. And we actually divided villages into 8 areas, but these are just the very brief results. And this is the same thing. And if you think about it, and this is just the same thing, just coded differently. If you think about it, if we put ourselves on this map, so I got to Bangladesh on a Monday. We started doing surveys on a Wednesday. If I asked people, who do you go to for help or advice, I'm nearly positive no one would have said me. It just doesn't make sense. But that's kind of the model of sending outsiders into these villages, is you're expecting them to use these new people as a resource when why should they? There are already these resources in the community. And granted, this guy Farooq Midha isn't he's not a genius. I mean he's a genius, but he's not well educated, and he's not doesn't hold degrees. He's not the richest person. He's just an average person in the community who everyone else sees as their go-to guy, and everyone has that go-to guy. You have your friend who you go to for advice, and it's just tapping into that. So then Farooq Midha becomes our link to this community. So instead of trying to teach an entire community how to do something, we're dealing with one person. So it's much easier to talk to one person and try and get him to change the habits of his peers instead of an outsider coming in and saying, you need to do this differently. And this is just a couple examples. That's a pond in Bangladesh in this village. In every village, every house has a pond, which is becomes mosquito infested. And what's worse is the waste for the animal waste goes into the water, and then they use the water for washing dishes, and then they get diarrhea. If I went in there and told them, you need to stop this, who are you? And we've been doing this for generations. Whereas if someone leads by example within the community who's already the most popular person, it kind of circumvents that resistance that I think most outsiders are met with. And another added benefit is that social network analysis, or using this tool to find the popular people, can help break taboos, because you're dealing with the opinion maker and the opinion holders in the community, the people that the community members respect the most. So if you're talking about HIV/AIDS and condom use and taboos with that, or if you're talking about education, this is a mosquito net wedding dress, which was a big problem when nonprofits were giving out mosquito nets. People were using them for wedding dresses because they didn't know how to use them. And it's funny, but it was a serious problem because it wasn't, they spent a lot of money doing it. And